the highest ideal that a person holds, consciously or unconsciously, that's their God. It functions in precisely that manner. And people might say, well, I don't believe in God. It's like, well, it depends on what you mean.
Right.
Like, and I'm not being foolish about that. It's like, we have to think about it functionally to some degree. We have to think about what that idea means. I mean, we've had that idea forever. It isn't just some superstition. Jesus, we've got to be more sophisticated than that, man.
Right.
You know, and that's partly, well, this is partly what I think is unfortunate about the new atheists, let's say, is they don't take the damn problem seriously. They think, well, Christianity, that's just a bunch of superstition. It's like, really? No, sorry, that's just not deep enough, man. Here's the rough story in the Old Testament. Israel is sort of a middle power, and it rises to power, and domination. And then a prophet arises and says, look, you guys, you're all successful now. You're starting to get corrupt. You're not paying attention to the widows and children. You're not running your state according to the superordinate principle. You might say, well, the superordinate principle doesn't exist. It's like, okay, keep running it that way and see what the hell happens. That's what the prophet says, usually at the risk of his life. He says that to the king. It's like, fine, you don't believe in God, you don't believe in the superordinate principle, let's say that, the superordinate ethical principle, no problem. Keep doing what you're doing. Let's see what happens. Well, what happens is Israel gets wiped out, you know, and then for generations it's enslaved or its population is being destroyed, and then it sort of climbs back up to power. And then it gets powerful for a brief period of time and it gets corrupt, and a prophet comes up and says, remember that superordinate principle that you made a covenant with? You're not paying any attention to it anymore. You better look the hell out. And everyone ignores it, and bang. So it's order, corruption, chaos. Order, corruption, chaos. That happens 6 times. We have to get sophisticated about this stuff, or we're going to throw it away without understanding it. It's unbelievable. Like, that story is, it's the story upon which Western civilization is founded. That's why Nietzsche said when God was dead that everything would collapse into chaos. He didn't say that triumphantly. So look, there's an old medieval idea. This is the idea of the imitation of Christ. This is something that Jung elaborates on a lot. He believed, this is one of the things that he said, was that the proper goal of a Christian, roughly speaking, is to enact the meta pattern of Christ's life in their own, to make it their own story. And so what did he mean by that? Well, part of it is, see, one of the things that characterizes the mythological figure of Christ, let's say, is that he takes on the burden of mortality voluntarily. He accepts it as a precondition of existence. And we have to do that because otherwise we get resentful. Like, life is hard, make no mistake about it. People's lives are tragic. You know, if you pick a random person off the street and you ask them about their life, man, usually there's things that have happened there. You know, they just beggar the imagination. It's no wonder people are angry and resentful and bitter. But the way out of that is to accept it, to accept your mortality, and that helps you transcend it. That's partly what the crucifix symbol means, because it was accepted voluntarily. You have to accept your death voluntarily. That's part of the path of the hero. It's a very difficult thing to do, obviously. What's your alternative? Well, telling the truth is a good start, because then you don't fool yourself about who you are. You know, that's one of the things I tried to think through is why you should tell the truth. So it's not self-evident, man. A smart kid, the smarter the kid, the earlier they learn to lie. Lying is very powerful, because you can manipulate the world with your language. And then you can get what you want lots of times, or escape from things that you don't want, so why not lie all the time? Well, I think the reason is, there's a bunch of reasons, but one of them is that you can't trust yourself if you lie. And there's going to be times in your life where you have no one to turn to except you. And so if you've stuffed yourself full of lies, then you're going to be in a crisis one day and you're going to have to make a decision, and you're going to decide wrong.